Welcome back to Cool Seminary Tutorials. Hi, I'm Professor Wendy. As I mentioned in a previous video, lions and tigers and bears were not the only foes that seemed to threaten the lives and the mission of sandal-wearing Jesus followers in the first several centuries AD. Today, I want to take just a few minutes to introduce several of the greatest challenges or foes the ancient Jesus followers were up against as they tried to fulfill the mission Jesus had given them to make disciples of all nations. First, I kid you not about the wild animals. Put on your sandals and let's go again to the ancient Roman Empire where Christianity had its start. All residents of the Roman Empire were required to pay homage to the emperor as chief sovereign over all. Obviously, Jesus followers worshipped Jesus as God and Lord of all. They refused to acknowledge Caesar's claims to exclusive sovereignty over their lives. Officials, such as Pliny, frequently made a spectacle of any who failed to obey, including Christians, by marching them into the local amphitheater to be torn apart and devoured by ravenous beasts, among other tortures. One of the most public and dramatic foes faced by ancient Jesus followers then was the official religion of the Roman Empire. What other foes were those ancient Jesus followers up against? Among other things, old-line Jewish beliefs, other vying religions, heretical teachings, secular philosophies, warring armies, and human greed and corruption. As in any new venture, there were the old-liners, those who were dead set that nothing could improve upon the way they had always done things before. In the case of the ancient Christians, most of whom started out as Jews, members of their own clans, their best friends, and their families did everything they could to stamp out the Christians' faith in Jesus as the Son of God, including sometimes stoning Christians to death. Third, there were vying religions, competitors, if you will, that had already established themselves in the Roman Empire. In addition to the state religion, Jesus followers contended with worshippers of Cybele, the great Earth Mother, and worshippers of Isis and Mithras. Fourth, although they may have appeared harmless enough on the surface, heretical beliefs among new Christians presented a real threat to what became creedally authenticated as Orthodox Christianity. To name just a few, Gnosticism, Donatism, Arianism, and Pelagianism competed with and threatened to distort the faith of Jesus followers. More about each of these later in the course. Fifth, secular philosophies such as those put forth by Plotinus of the 3rd century presented a big challenge to the Jesus followers' belief that God was revealed in the God-man, Jesus Christ. Those known as Neoplatonists held to a philosophy that emphasized rational contemplation, mystical ecstasy, and the reabsorption of creation into the divine essence. Sixth, as in any era, there were often warring armies from foreign tribes that terrorized, pillaged, and killed whomever they encountered in their path. Jesus' followers were not exempt from this harsh reality of life in the early centuries AD. Sometimes the Christians managed to make peace and even convert those tribes to Christianity. All too often, however, Christians and everyone else were simply killed in their tracks. Last but certainly not least, human greed and corruption took their toll on the ever-growing flock of Jesus followers. As Christianity spread, and especially after Emperor Constantine's conversion to Christianity in the 4th century, the temptations of power, position, and influence infected both church and government officials. The problems of greed and abuse of power are still with us today, and we'll look more closely at these when we get to a thrilling discussion of human nature, sin, and evil. With so many challenges and obstacles facing them, one has to wonder about the chances of success of the Jesus followers' mission. On the other hand, as Jesus himself said to his disciples, with God all things are possible. In upcoming videos, we'll look at some specific examples of Jesus followers and foes. We'll also explore the historical fact that, no matter how others tried to stop them, the ancient Christians managed, nonetheless, to spread Christianity throughout and even beyond the Roman Empire, just as Jesus himself had directed them to do. I'm Professor Wendy. Thanks for watching. Please leave some feedback, ask questions, and click to subscribe to Cool Seminary Tutorials. Most of all, have fun learning.